And welcome back to another episode of TWiP Weddings. My name is Bruce Clark, and once again, I am pleased to be joined in the co-host chair by my usual co-hosts, Mr. Robert Evans and Mr. Brian Caparici. Good morning, afternoon, gentlemen.
Good day.
Good day. Hola.
Or should I say, top of the morning to you there, Mr. Evans.
Top of the morning to you.
So you've got a really cool story. Before we get rolling onto the show, I think you've got a really cool story that you want to share. So Robert was just over in London recently to photograph a wedding, and then you did a little side trip to Ireland and met up with some TWiP wedding listeners, which I think was really awesome.
Yeah, so to cut a long story short, like they say over there, so to make a long story short, so one of our listeners, Eddie Hennessy, had put a post in our Facebook group requesting, did anybody know of a service to critique work because he was looking to redo his website. I replied and I said, hey, Eddie, I said, I'd be happy to just go through your images with you. If you put them in a gallery and send it to me, we could Skype. So we did that. And in the process of doing that, you know, I come to find out he lives in Ireland, in Cork, Ireland. And I have my Cork, Ireland hat on.
Very good.
And
is that what that is? Okay.
Yeah. No, this is Minnetonka. So I switched hats. I switched hats. Oops. Well, I do own one, Eddie. And so he said, oh, why don't you come here? I'll show you around. And to cut a long story short, he did. He met us at the airport. He booked me a hotel. Is much appreciation for helping him with his pictures, which he didn't have to do. And thank you again, Eddie. And we went to their local pub and met his people and just had a great time. And then he took us down south a little further to Dingle, Ireland, which is a great little
Dingle. I like that name.
Dingle.
Were there any berries there?
We searched high and low for them, and we couldn't find
none.
Them.
No dingleberries.
No, I don't think I wanted to find too many of them. You know, it's a little sticky situation, but. So yeah, we went to Dingle, and that actually peninsula that the Dingle's on is the furthest west to the United States. So on the island of Ireland, it's the westernmost peninsula on the island, just for you trivia buffs.
Very cool. Excellent. Well, I thought that was a really neat story and really cool that you got to go over there. And so
yeah, no, he was great. Himself and then his friend Michael, who I don't remember your last name right now, Michael, but they were both awesome, showed us around, totally gracious. And Eddie's an amazing photographer. He really had a great eye when we went through his images, you know, really a great eye for the moment. So spread the love, Eddie. More TWiP listeners. Tell them how much you love us. And when we're in your town, we'll come visit you too.
Excellent. Sounds good. Right on. Well, this week we're going to have a discussion on how wedding photographers can increase their referrals and hopefully encourage their clients to review their services. So that's going to be our topic today. But before we get into that, we want to remind you how you can participate in the show. You can first visit the website at thisweekinphoto.com/weddings. There you'll find the show notes for each episode, which will contain the links to anything that we mention on the show. You can also leave your comments and feedback for us in the comments section. If you have a question or you have a suggestion of a topic, a couple of ways you can reach us. You can email us, twipwed@thisweekinphoto.com, or just go to the website and click on the Contact Us link at the top of the page, choose TWiP Weddings, and send your question in that way. If you prefer using social media, just add the hashtag TWiPWed to your post. We'll keep our eye out for those. And we're also on Instagram and Facebook, so just search for us over there. So let's jump into the show, because I know that we want to try and keep this to about an hour or so, and Brian has to run right afterwards, so we're going to try and get through all this. But I think if we asked, you know, both of you guys, or any small business owner really, sort of the number one ways they get new customers and attract new business, I think most would probably say it's through referrals. Would you guys concur with that observation?
I would say a lot of people think they get it mostly from referrals. I actually wonder how much analyzing photographers actually do to you know, how things come in, because sometimes we might hear things, but the reality may be actually a little bit different than sort of what people tell us or whatever. They may tell us they heard about it through referral, but like maybe it was just like a casual mention at one point. Then they saw an ad, or then they saw this, and they saw something else, or they saw us on social media. I don't know. I mean, I would like to think that the majority of most people's business is referrals. I think that photographers can do a much better job at getting more referrals. But yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely it should be a big part of lead generation for your business, without question.
Yeah. Robert, what do you find? Would you say that the biggest source of a lot of your new business is referrals from other clients?
Yeah, I would say it's about half referral and half marketing efforts, meaning that, just out there networking with coordinators and attending industry events and, some online presence, and a little bit of, I guess, for me, I get a little bit of stuff from press and media, but that kind of fluctuates.
Okay. So you mentioned measuring, Brian. I think that's a great segue to kind of talk about a little bit. So how do you guys keep track of, like, do you guys have in your systems ways that you keep track of kind of where the referral or where the lead came in from, and how do you go about asking? So when you get an inquiry, right, inquiry comes in via the phone, via email, web page, however, do you have a place or a way to find out where that, where they found out about you? Do you ask them directly? Do you have a spot on your website? How do you guys handle it, track it?
Well, yes, in my Sprout Studio contact form.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to have it on your contact form. How did you hear about us? I think you're going to get a lot of crap that way, honestly. If I can be so blunt as to say,
because people are lazy and they just don't want to.
Yeah, I think people are lazy. I think people are they're not thinking. They're not thinking thoughtfully. Does that make sense? They're not thinking properly at that point, right? About like, what was it that I did that led me to where I am now to find this photographer to get in touch? Because they know that answer, that question is all about you, the photographer, not about them, the client.
Right.
And they're inquiring about them, the client. So they don't necessarily care too much about you, the photographer, at that point just yet. So I think you're going to get some stuff in there, but I don't think it's going to be incredibly valuable personally, at least from what I've seen. They'll just kind of put like, friend, website, Google, whatever.
Right.
Like, you're not going to get, in my opinion, you're not going to get anything that's going to inform decisions in your business just based on that.
Okay. So what would you do to fix that? So to get some actual reliable data?
Do you want me to give away my secrets then, is what you're saying?
Yes. What is your secret? I want to find out how Robert
my suggestion to every photographer, and something that I do, is you have conversations with your clients. And I oh my goodness. My suggestion in doing it isn't like to do it when, like, let's say I have an inquiry for a wedding, right? This week in photography, wedding photographers. So I have an inquiry for a wedding. I do not talk about that at the point when I meet them for the first time at the consultation. I do not talk about that at all. I don't want to get that information. I want to talk about them at that consultation. Mm-hmm. But once a couple has decided to book me, or once a couple has decided not to book me, I always ask them if I can have a call with them. And I say, I'd love to just chat with you and just dig a little bit more into how we found ourselves where we are today. Just would love input from you. I'm a small business. I'm a solo entrepreneur, and getting feedback from clients like you is what helps me get more clients like you and service my clients better in the future. Would you be open to a quick 10-minute phone call just to chat about some things, kind of like a postpartum? I've very rarely had people say no to that when you ask it that way. If it's like, I'd like to invite you to answer a survey, would you? It's like, people won't answer a survey. But if it's personal, if it's got warmth, if it has some level of intent behind it, I've never found anyone to have pushback on that. And in that call, that's where I'll dig into it. I'm like, talk to me a little bit about what state were you in when you were looking for a photographer? What were you doing? Like, were you asking people? Did you post on social media? Did you Google? Did you go to a wedding show? What was that journey like for you? And I'll just get them to anecdotally comment on that. And then I'll say, okay, great. So obviously at some point you found me. Yay, here we are. You booked me. Hooray. Or maybe you didn't book me, and that's okay. Talk to me about, how did you find me? Like, can you remember the path that you went on? Did you Google? What did you Google when you were looking for me? Or if they say, oh yeah, my friend told me about it. It's like, oh great, like where did your friend tell you? Because sometimes when someone says, oh, my friend told me about it, it really means they just saw a post on Facebook that your friend was tagged in. So I want to know if that's the case or if it was actually a friend talking about me. And if it was a friend, what did they say? And if it was a friend, who is that friend? Because I want to be able to track and analyze that kind of information. So I go into that and I just have a conversation with the client and say like, talk to me about that. And then I get into the conversation, which is even more valuable, to say, either you ended up booking me or you ended up choosing another photographer, which is totally fine. I understand. I'm just curious to hear what made your mind up. Like, what was it that made you book me, or that made you realize that maybe I wasn't the choice for you? I just, again, curious to hear, because it helps me improve who I am as a photographer and how I can service other clients like you. And I've never had clients that have give me pushback on that either. So then I get real information when they're being honest and vulnerable and open to me. And that information is so much more important than just a field on a forum.
Yeah. So do you approach them via email to see if they're open to having that call, and then follow up, and then
exactly. Yep.
Okay. So you wait till kind of we've gotten through the sales process, right? And then you kind of go after that information.
Because the thing is like at that point, they've seen the value that you offer. They've seen that you care. They've met you. They have a connection. They have a relationship. If I try and do that before I even know who they are, or they even know who I am, why would they give me any information? Why would they spend time with me if I haven't even shown them value in their life yet?
Right.
Whether they ended up booking me or not, through the consultation, through building a relationship, I've built connections with people many, many times, ended up not booking me. And then I'd see them at a friend's wedding later on, and I'd be like, hey, how's it going? How's the wedding planning going? Like, we built a connection. So there's somewhat of a relationship. Whether they ended up booking me or not, I don't think that we can ask for that kind of personal endeavor until we've got some kind of connection with people.
That's good. I like that. Robert, how do you handle things when you get an inquiry? Are you similar to Brian, or do you have a different approach in terms of finding out where the kind of the lead came in from?
Well, let me ask Brian a question too. I would bet, I'm going to go ahead and I would almost even put money on this, that you have received referrals from people who did not book you because of that effort.
100%.
Yep. I mean, it's such a smart business tactic. Now, I sometimes don't do the same extent that Brian does, but I've similarly spent time with people who like even straight out said, you're more than I can afford. And I've just sort of spent time with them on the phone saying, okay, here's my photography advice of how to choose a photographer, get the best out of what you're looking for, and really just spend time with them, helping them. And have gotten many referrals from people that like, I'd get people call like, yeah, and I don't even remember sometimes, but you helped my friend on the phone. And so that was my guess. But to answer your question, Bruce, I will sometimes, of course, I always ask the question, how did you find out about me? If it were, kind of a blind lead, if you will. Sometimes even in my reply, like I'll get, contact forms. And if they didn't put, I just answered one the other day and the person was kind of vague. And I just said, oh, I was just curious to find out how you heard about us. What is your wedding date? Because they didn't fill that out. Things like that. I said, I need to see if I'm available, etc. But I usually just ask. I think I'm not as thorough as Brian is. I guess I could be. I always learn things from him when we have these shows. And so, yeah, I mean, but I just usually ask the question, basically, whether it be in an email or, when they're booking, usually I will. I haven't gone to the point where I call them that didn't book me. Sometimes I will ask over email why, or, just to get a feel.
But yeah, we do that as well. I definitely don't take it as far as Brian, but I really like that approach. I think that's a great way of going out and really getting some valuable, useful data. So then, Brian, my next question would be then, what do you do with that data? How does that data help you? Obviously, it probably helps inform your sales and your marketing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, obviously that informs everything you do going forward. I track it through like in their actual client information, just like as a note, as a conversation that we have. But I also have like a spreadsheet where I track it all so I can see everything in one place. And I just kind of keep it there type of thing. That was also, again, it's not a plug, but I can track everything can boil down to like certain ideas, right? If they were actually truly a referral from a friend, I will classify them as having been referred by a friend. If it was truly from Google, I will classify them as being done through Google. And then through my systems like Sprout, or you could use any system for that matter, you can track trends and analytics on that. So you can say, oh wow, people that were referred by a friend booked 80% more than those that weren't referred by a friend. Or people that were referred through Google, I ended up closing 5% of them. So maybe Google isn't really the area that I want to spend my time investing. But also, again, like that's where you boil it down just to sort of one concept. I think just the conversations that we have in doing customer outreach, which photographers I don't think do very often, can inform everything we do. It helps you be a better person. It helps you be a better photographer. It helps you know what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. That's how we grow as a photographer. I think there's a lot of emphasis in our industry about putting our work up for review in other photographers, which is great. I love critiques. I think it's an amazing way to grow. But we're only growing photographically that way. We're only growing creatively that way. What are we doing to grow as people? What are we doing to grow as business people, as entrepreneurs, as customer service agents? Like there's so many other hats we wear in our business. I think it's important to do customer outreach because they're the people that can tell us where we can grow and improve.
Right. Yeah, and you might get some very useful feedback that you hadn't even considered or thought of. There might be a reason why they didn't book you. It might have been maybe your packages are really out of touch with what people are wanting these days, or maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know if customers would be that honest, but and tell you. But maybe there was something about your body language, or maybe you had body odor that day and you didn't know, like something that you weren't aware of, right? And so maybe that might come out through one of those conversations.
I'll give you, I have like an interesting example of this as to exactly why this is so important. I booked a bride, it was maybe 2 years ago now. She had inquired via email initially, right? And I did my typical thing back and forth. And she initially right away ended up saying, oh yeah, you know what? You live out of my budget. I'm not able to afford you. That's okay. We'll kind of move on looking somewhere else. And then a month later, she gets in touch with me and says, hey, can we actually meet just, to go over details and to talk and stuff? And I said, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. Let's get together. So they came over to our studio. They ended up booking me on the spot. I'm like, okay, a month ago you said that you weren't going to work, right? Yeah. Initially, she was referred by someone. It was a friend of hers that told her about me. If I were to listen to what she put out on her contact form, I would attribute that to a referral. When I dug into it and started having a conversation, I said, I got to know, like, you initially said that you weren't going to hire me, and now you've just booked me for one of, not my highest package, but for more than my base package. Like you spent almost triple what you initially said you wanted to spend on photography. Yeah. Like what gives? What's going on, right?
Did you win the lottery?
yeah, exactly. She goes, honestly, I was fighting booking you. I really, really wanted to book you. I love your photography. I love all the work that you've done in the past. I know a lot of people you've photographed, but the prices were we couldn't swing it. Our budget wasn't there. We weren't, doing it. After I decided that I wasn't going to book you and we kept looking at other photographers and whatever, she goes, I kept seeing you come up on Facebook. Like I kept seeing your name. I kept seeing your images. I kept seeing all these beautiful stories, all these things. And she says, it had to be a sign. So I just had to get back in touch with you. And so she booked me. So the behind the scenes is those things she was seeing on Facebook was me retargeting her through Facebook retargeting and through Facebook ads. Right. Because she had been to my website, she had been to the contact page, but she hadn't booked me yet. And so therefore I have a campaign that targets that kind of person. So she saw those because of Facebook retargeting. And because I found that out, I was able to directly attribute that booking to my Facebook retargeting efforts. And if I didn't have that conversation, I would have attributed it to a referral, which it still in part was, but it was the Facebook retargeting, the advertising on Facebook that actually got me the booking. So it's interesting that by asking that question, that's how I was able to get that information.
I'll find it out. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, digging in and getting that can be really valuable and help you. So, Robert, I want to talk to you a bit about, I want to change gears a little bit. So we talk a lot, I think when we think referral, a lot of times we think referral, a lot of photographers think, oh, past clients. That's particularly with the weddings, right? That they're going to, friends of friends going to get married. But I think it's also important to consider, you can get a lot of referrals from other vendors, other photographers. So I know you're really good. This is an area that you really kind of excel in, is working with the planners and the venues and things like that. So how do you go about ensuring that you get referrals from some of those key vendors that you work with? And we've talked about some of these points, I'm sure, but let's...
Correct. I mean, I think number one, which we've talked about many times, is, just having the one-on-one human interaction and relationship with those people. I do, when I can, I will attend industry events, whether it's, an opening of a new place, just go out there and be seen and see those people and meet with them. I will schedule lunches with planners, continuing relationships with people that I do work with, and then sometimes, wanting to meet new ones, bring my book, sit down and just talk about, of course, my philosophy and what I do shooting weddings. And I think, some of that is just your personality helping to sell yourself. Because as we know, there's a lot of photographers, but again, I've always said that there's two things that separate you as a photographer: your eye, that you see differently. It's just like your fingerprint, and of course your personality. So that makes you 100% unique to anybody else. And I think if you, follow your heart and shoot your style and not try to be somebody that you're not, then you will, be successful and you will stand out in your own way. But it's building those relationships with those people. And I think the other thing is just sort of, how do I want to say it? I guess it's just really like maintaining those relationships and keeping up with it. There's always new people, new things. I'll think about like, oh my gosh, I worked with this planner like 2 years ago. Why aren't they referring me anymore? And I think that can happen. Just, it's like out of sight, out of mind. Mm-hmm. You might have been the hottest, newest, most exciting thing to them, or maybe they just don't have the right client for you. But I recently had somebody reach out that I haven't heard from in a while because she had the right client, So, for me, that's kind of how I do. We've talked about even just the little things that you can do, like handwritten notes and gifts if you want to do that, and just appreciating. But I'm also not I'm not a suck up, I guess. I'm not a over like, I don't feel like gifts and all that stuff is necessarily the most important thing. It's really just appreciating and being appreciated in the moment and being authentic, I think, about it. That's kind of like how I do it. And I've got, as far as return business, you talked about it in the top of the hour, but the wedding I just did in London was a second wedding. So it was repeat business. I did this bride's first wedding, and she loved what I did. And she's like, I want you to photograph my next wedding.
That's a rarity though. Hopefully we don't have too many brides.
She is. And I will give you the statistic. In 27 years, I think she is my fifth bride whose wedding I photographed twice.
Okay.
So it's very few and far between. I just booked another big wedding for November of 2017, destination wedding, sister of a girl that I have done in the past. So they come from all over the place. I do get some stuff from the internet because can be searched. If you search destination wedding photographer, I think I'm like 2 or 3 that come up. But then again, some of those contacts that I get, people are a little unrealistic. They're like, oh, like I come up in the search, like Brian mentioned, in Google, but people want to spend $2,000-$3,000. They don't realize, bringing a photographer with them to a location, should be more than hiring somebody locally, no matter what you charge.
Right. Yeah.
So
I want to talk about, you mentioned gifts, for referring and things like that. Do you guys offer any kind of an incentive, or obviously we don't want to have like, yeah, here's a card, here's 20% off your next wedding. Probably that's maybe not a good marketing strategy. But do you guys offer any type of an incentive or pull through for either vendors or for customers, previous clients who refer business your way? Brian, is there anything that you do?
No.
Really?
No, you can't do it. You can't. Here's why. I'll tell you why.
I thought you'd have a whole program.
Oh, well, I have programs I've done, but it's not. The thing is, I don't think it's something that people should come to expect. And that's why I like doing things as a surprise, as these little sort of one-off things, but I want it to be completely inconsistent and completely off the cuff and random and not expected, because I want people to refer me because they want to refer me, not because they're going to get something for it.
Right.
So you don't have an overt program that you say, here after the wedding, you can give a coupon or something like that. You don't do anything like that.
No, because then it completely shifts the focus of why they're referring you. They're not going to be talking about you in a genuine way. They're going to be talking about you almost like fake, right? Because like they know they're getting something out of it if that person goes.
Right.
And all of a sudden that trust, that referral has completely started on the wrong ground.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So no, I would honestly suggest that photographers do not have any kind of referral program. I think this is off topic, but quickly, I think the onus of getting referrals should be on you as the photographer to do an amazing job as a photographer and giving a great experience, and that's why people should be referring you.
Okay.
I think so often it's what's funny. I mentioned in the email to you guys, I'm running this week. I'm doing a whole educational campaign every day this week, all about guaranteed referrals for photographers. We're doing Facebook Live. We just wrapped it up before. That's why I was a couple minutes late coming into this. But at the very beginning of the whole thing, what I started out by saying is that so many photographers ask the question, how can I get my customers to refer me? And that's the question that we always ask ourselves. And I think that is completely the wrong way to look at it. I think we need to stop looking at how do I get my customers to refer me? How do I get referrals? How do I get referrals? It doesn't matter. That's very selfish. That's looking at you. What can you get out of it? That's not why we're in business. We're in business to serve people. And I like the idea of shifting the onus to be on the photographer and then asking the question, how can I create such a remarkable experience for my clients, to create such amazing images, to exceed their expectations in such a way that they can't help but talk about me? Because now it shifts the focus on how do I swindle my clients? How do I convince them to refer me, AKA a referral program or some awkward way that you ask your clients for referrals. And it shifts the focus to you to say, you better damn well exceed expectations. You better do a great job as their photographer. You better be a great person, build a great relationship with them, and give them a great experience so that it's remarkable. And therefore, they are more likely to remark upon it, AKA refer you. So I like the idea of shifting that focus from being, how do I get my client to refer me, to how can I make it so amazing that they want to refer me?
They'll have no choice but to refer me.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Robert, what's your approach? What's your thoughts around?
Absolutely concur with Brian. I think the gifts, that you do give need to be personal and authentic, but it's on a case-by-case basis. Like, you shot someone's wedding, you've spent all this intimate time with him, their likes and their dislikes, and you happen to know that the groom likes Irish whiskey, or however, but it's like personalizing, like giving them something that they will truly appreciate.
Yep.
Because you've learned something about them, you've taken that extra time to pay attention to who they are. Going to address, I'll just give you an example, and I try to do this in my business as much as possible. The wedding that I just did in London, we've talked about it. So for context, since this podcast doesn't come out right away, I shot the wedding on September 3rd. Today we were recording it September 14th. Now this girl paid me a lot of money to come over to London and shoot her wedding. So when regardless of how much they pay me, I still try to have the same attitude, but I acknowledge that she's bringing me a long way and paying me a good sum of money to do so. Here's some of the things that I did for her. First off, she mentioned to me that, Robert, we're going on our honeymoon and we're going on safari in Africa. We need a camera suggestion. So we talked about it. I suggested to her Sony RX10 III because it has a 24mm to 600mm lens on it. I said, you're going to go out there, you're going to have a better range than probably even some of the guys that bring their 20,500mm 2.8 lenses. Now, it's not the same glass, but it's really an amazing camera. And I'm not just plugging Sony because I'm supposed to. I really love the camera.
It is a great camera. I'll endorse that 100%.
Yeah. It's for what it is. It's the only camera, and again, I'll get off this. It's the only camera that I shot while I traveled in Ireland. I had all my other work cameras, and I carried that camera around with me because it was light.
Yep.
It's sharp, and it takes amazing pictures. And I had such a range to shoot things that I wanted as I walked around.
Nice.
But so she said, "Okay, I like it." She said, "Will you buy me one?" So I bought her the camera. I brought it to her over at the hotel. I mean, where we were in the same hotel for 3 days, and we still didn't have the opportunity to get together. And so she had gone back to her home on Monday. I got in a cab. I took a cab 10 minutes to their house. You know, I didn't want to have to do that. I was done working, but I went to her home. I delivered the camera. I spent a half an hour, 45 minutes with them, giving them a lesson, showing them how to use it. Okay, that's just one thing to go above and beyond, and it's a unique situation. But going back to something that we all have to do, I mentioned today is September 14th. The wedding was September 3rd. Her images are already online, and I already designed her album because this is what she wanted me to do, and sent her the link yesterday. So that's done, and the first time she's going to actually look at the book is in the album because I haven't sent her the gallery link. And then as well as the vendors that I worked with in London, who chances are I'm probably not going to get a whole ton of referrals, but you never know. But I created my vendor gallery. We've talked about this on the show. I sent it off, you know, to all of them. I got their email addresses. It went out to about 8 people, from the lighting people to the decor people to the planner to the florist and they all have it. And everyone's happy. So it's those things going above and beyond, you know, the call of duty that I think are going to get you the referrals. Plus, like Brian, I truly agree. You know, I even tell this in my appointment with my couples is, look, I'm not going to sell you more stuff afterwards, but I'm going to go out and shoot amazing images that you want to purchase them because you can't say no to my photography.
Yep. Yep. So surprise and delight basically is you know, surprise and delight your clients, and they're going to either come back for more or refer their friends, family, other people that they know,
right,
to you. So that's your guys' both advice and strategy. So I like that. Excellent. Okay, so let's talk about. I want to switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about reviews, because reviews, I think, are becoming, you know, I don't know, a fairly important part of, you know, how people make buying decisions these days, right? They're going to go online. They're going to look at reviews. So what stock do you guys put in reviews, and where do you think reviews work the best for you guys? Like, is there a certain site that you prefer, like Facebook, Google, Yelp, something else? Reviews.
I don't ask for them. I don't encourage them. Again, I hope that it's an organic and that it's obviously positive, that, you know, somebody's going to go online and say something nice about you, and I guess that would be Facebook, but I don't do the whole Yelp thing or any of that.
So you don't solicit a review from a client, it's just you leave it out there, and if they do it, they do it. If not, you don't pursue it.
I think I just have the attitude that that the review is going to be nothing but positive. Yes, I'm human and things can happen and we deal with the public, but that is just sort of my attitude, that you know, they're going to be nothing but happy. So I don't expect them to write a review for me online because I did a good job. And just to touch on that, I think if you are going to have like reviews and or testimonials from your clients in today's day and age, get it on video and put video testimonials up there, because anybody can write, oh, my client said this and here's the letter that I got, and those things are nice, but you know, again, there's nothing better in today's world than you know, 10-15-second video of your client giving you a review. So if you want to put those on your site, I think that's a great thing, and seek those out and talk to your customers, and, you know, do a little, you know, have them just be no more than 20-30 seconds, have 5 or 6 of them if you can do it, and you know, work towards that.
Yeah. Brian, what do you think about the reviews, the whole review process?
Yeah, I for the most part agree. I've never made like online reviews a big part of my sort of customer experience in terms of asking people for it. I think, you know, I mean, I've got some, and that's great and all that, but I don't know. I'm kind of the opinion, the reviews in the places like the Google review, the Facebook review, the Yelp, that kind of stuff, I'm not sure really how much weight it's actually going to hold, because usually it's the business owner asking someone for the review. And if it's a bad review, the business owner tries to fight it and have it removed anyways. So you're not really going to get an honest picture of what this person's business is. I think having a few there is nice. I think the focus, if anything, should be on the Google review, because if anyone Googles your name, your Google like listing, your page is very likely to come up on the right-hand side there. And in the little card that it shows the reviews that you have.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how much does that influence your page ranking, like reviews, having lots of reviews? Do you think that helps?
You know, I have knowledge in SEO. I don't think anyone really knows the answer. I think it probably doesn't hurt to have reviews there. I think it's probably just this like really small, subtle kind of reminder to see that, you know, 5-star rating, a couple people saying something about you versus saying, no one's reviewed this photographer yet. You know, it's just, It looks a little bit nicer. It looks a little bit more complete. It's almost like if you did the same thing and didn't have pictures there, they'd be like, oh, that's weird. Like, I just searched their name and I see their business over here and they don't have any pictures. That's kind of strange. So I just think it's like, it's a small, subtle cue that helps influence the decision for them to move forward. I don't think it's going to make or break you. But that being said, I totally agree with Robert in doing video. I think video is the best way to get reviews, and I know the video we did one for our website, and anyone's welcome to do it. It's actually like 6 years old now. I should update it, anyways, it's old, but I invited my clients over to the studio, and I interviewed them. I put the video camera on, and I just sat and had a chat with them, asking about the process, what it was like, what they thought, all those kinds of things, and I put it into just one video. So I've got like maybe 5 different clients in this one video, and it's like 3 minutes long. So it's short, it's concise, it's to the point, and it has a ton of views. And a lot of people a lot of brides and grooms that inquire with me do tell me that they've watched the video and that they enjoyed hearing what people had to say. And I asked them for more things other than, like, I asked them to tell stories or to get into details more than just like, Brian took very pretty pictures for me. I really love my album. He is so nice. You know, it's more than just that. And I think that's important. And that's where you can only do that when you can sit down and have a conversation with somebody, as opposed to saying, can you write a review about me? Because what are they going to write? Brian took great pictures and he was really great with us on our wedding day. Like, that doesn't say anything about me as a photographer. Right. What did the images mean to you? What was I like to deal with? What was the experience like? What was my service like? Like, go into detail, and people aren't going to naturally just spill that kind of information unless you encourage it out of them. So I think video is a great way to do it.
Very cool. Yeah, I like that. That's a great suggestion. Yeah, it's something we've been thinking about as well. We've been kind of in discussions with a video production company here about doing, you know, a video of ourselves, you know, working and all of that for our website, and the topic of, you know, interviewing clients has come up, and so it's something we're kind of in the process of looking at right now and possibly doing. So very timely.
Sweet.
Excellent. Before we kind of move on and wrap this topic up, any final thoughts kind of on referrals and reviews that you guys want to share? Anything I've missed?
I can just dive into like some super quick, you know, I talked earlier about the idea of the onus being on you, the photographer, to get referrals. And I think carrying on that sort of like thread, I think a lot of the times, and this is the case in a lot of areas of business, photographers put more emphasis on the photography than maybe we should. and I don't mean to say that photography is not important, because it is important. But I think when you look at the big picture, and when you start having these conversations about people or with people about why they referred or how they heard about you and things like that, it's often not about the photography.
Yeah, I've experienced the same thing.
I think I tell a story in one of the articles that I wrote about this, where as a wedding photographer, I can't tell you how many times at the reception I'll have bridesmaids or groomsmen or family or friends, any guests at the wedding, come up and be like, oh my gosh, you've just done such a great job today. Like, I'm getting married next year. I'd love to get in touch and talk. Or we've been talking about doing family portraits. Can we book you for a session? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, like, let's do it. But then I'm, thinking, how did you say I did a great job? You haven't seen the photos yet.
Haven't seen the photos.
Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But so they're wanting to book you. They're wanting to refer you, wanting to pursue an opportunity with you without ever even having seen your photos yet. And that's because it's about more than just the photos, right? So I think in that, what I've found is that it's largely about you as a person. That's like the biggest piece of the equation in terms of why someone will refer you. It's about you, the person, your ability to relate, to connect, to build relationships. That's like 50% of the puzzle, 50% of the equation. The other part of it, the other bigger part of it, is the experience that you give people, the journey that you give them, the little things like giving gifts or delivering delight and surprise or exceeding expectations or having these little moments of positive interaction with your business that people weren't expecting to have. Those little things, ways that you exceed expectations, that is what's going to make you more referable than necessarily even your photography. So I think when you look at like, a pie graph of the whole thing, I think your photography is only like 15% of the equation. And everything else is you as a person, your ability to connect, and the experience that you give people. So I guess when you look at it in that framework, it shows you where you should really focus in having clients and in giving a great experience if you want to make referrals a big part of your business.
Very good. Mr. Evans, anything to add on the topic of referrals?
It's along the same lines. I mean, I think personality's always been, I found that, people say, I hired you because I liked you. Yes, we liked your work, but that always seems to be like the reason they hire you is because they like you as the person and they feel comfortable with you. And again, to what Brian said is, if photography is 15% of what you do, go think about, every photographer can probably think about this, but there's someone, we're always looking at people's work, and you might look at someone's work and go, oh my gosh, their photography is terrible, but they're always busy. That's your opinion, but it goes to show you that that person is doing something.
Absolutely. Excellent. Well, very good advice, and hopefully that will help our audience, think maybe a little differently about referrals and reviews, and help grow their business. So we're going to take a short break, but after the break, we are going to answer a question from one of our listeners. All right, so we're back, and we've got a listener question. So each week we'll choose a listener question to answer on the show, and this week we've got a question from Vincent, and it's a fairly long question, so I'm going to try and boil it down to the salient point. But basically, Vincent photographed a wedding, and during the wedding, one of the bridesmaids had her boyfriend there, and so she had asked if could take a couple of photos of her with her boyfriend. And then she approached the photographer afterwards and wanted to see the photos and purchase the photos. So Vincent's kind of wondering, the bride and groom hadn't seen the images yet, so he, let them know that, they wouldn't be able to see the photos until the bride and groom has seen them, but didn't feel comfortable selling the photos without checking with the bride and groom. So his question is, where do you stand on this? Should I sell the pictures to the bridesmaid under special terms? Do I need permission of the bride and groom to sell the pictures to this bridesmaid and her boyfriend? Who wants to field this one for Vincent?
I think he did the right thing. I think the couple is, your first priority. You are there because of the couple. And so I think his instinct to say, yeah, you can purchase them once they're released to the couple, maybe online or however. That's my opinion about it.
Yeah. Brian, what do you think?
Yes, I think your client is the bride and groom. I think you should give the bride and groom the link to the gallery, and if they send it to people and they order prints, that's great. But I would never try and promote it outside of that. Like, I'd never go on my Facebook page and be like, oh, here's the gallery of all the photos. Anyone that wants to go order some, go ahead and do it. Because they're private images. So the bride and groom will share it with people they want to share it with. And if they're sharing it with their friends and family, and their friends and family order prints, then that's great. But they're only doing so because the bride and groom shared it. So I think, if that bridesmaid contacted me, I would just say, hey, got some great shots. Get in touch with the bride and groom. They've got the link to the gallery, and they can get you all set up with all the details you need to order those prints.
Yep. So kind of direct things back through the through the bride and groom. Let them kind of decide whether they want to share that, because who knows? You never know. They could have had a falling out with that person.
Yep.
From the time you photographed it.
So the other thing that I do is, and again, you can do this with a lot of gallery systems. We do it in Sprout. That's how I do it, but you can do it in a bunch of them. You can make a gallery available before the wedding. And if anyone goes there, they sign up with their email address to be notified when the gallery goes live. So we do that in Sprout, and I do that with my own business. But I give the link to the gallery to the bride and groom ahead of time. And so I say, hey, here's the link to where your gallery will live. If you want your guests, your friends, your family to see the photos and to have the opportunity to purchase prints after the wedding, send them this link if you want. Put it on your wedding website. Put it on social media if you want. And anyone that goes there now will be able to sign up to be notified of the gallery once it comes available. And so then when the gallery does get published, I'll send an email to all those people automatically saying, hey, that gallery you signed up for is live. Here you go. Go there, check it out, order your prints. But again, they're only going there. They're only seeing it because the bride and groom shared it. So it still all sort of funnels through the bride and groom.
Yeah, we did something similar. We would ask the bride and groom first off, are you comfortable if your guests and friends have access to see the gallery? And then we would actually get a card, a set of cards printed up before the wedding with the gallery link, and then it just said, in 4 to 6 weeks, visit this link, and you're able to see the photos. And we did that for a couple of years, and it was we'd spend $75-$100 per wedding to get these things printed out, and we get 100-150 of them printed up and spread them around, but. It didn't lead to a ton of business, so we eventually kind of just stopped doing it. There's a lot of work and whatnot to do it, and it wasn't leading to a whole lot. So we just we share the link to bride and groom, and then they can decide if they want to send it out.
Yep.
And go from there. So excellent. So I think Vince, to boil it down, I think he did the right thing. Is funnel it through the bride and groom, let them make the call. Do you have the rights to sell the photo? I mean, I guess technically you own the copyright, so you have the right. But I think the right thing to do is check with the bride and groom and make sure that they're cool with it. So
I think sometimes, just to clarify that, what you are legally allowed to do versus what is right from a customer experience, customer service standpoint are sometimes two different things. If you're the photographer, if you took the picture, you can sell it to anyone you want. Does that mean that you should? Not necessarily. Right. So that's where that sort of line, I think, is drawn.
And for communication purposes, Vincent could have said, I'm happy to take this portrait. It'll be included in the gallery with everything for the bride and groom, and you're going to probably have to wait until that's released.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That way she knew her expectations she knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah, setting those expectations, because we get asked that too, right? We've had, we're a couple or whatever. We just had one where one of the bridesmaids was a sister. They just had a baby. And so they had the family was together. It was kind of their first family photo, and they just, while we were doing family formals, there was a break, and they said, "Could you take just a quick photo of the three of us? We haven't had a family photo yet." So we obliged and did that for them, right? But just setting those expectations. And
knowing what the full length of the question was, just so the listeners know, there was a comment in there where the groom said he was actually upset that the girl did this. So again, what Brian mentioned, legally you could sell it to her, but you don't know what the effect it's going to have on your couple. So again, I always think it's always good to default to pleasing your couple first, because they're the ones paying you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Absolutely. Excellent. Well, if you have a question like Vincent did, we want to hear from you. So just head on over to thisweekinphoto.com, click on the Contact Us link, and choose TWiP Weddings and send us a question, and we will try to answer it on a future episode. All right, let's move on. We're almost at the end of the show, but before we reach the end of the show, we have our picks of the week to share. And each episode, we're going to share a photography-related item that we think would benefit wedding photographers. Our picks can be anything as long as they're somehow related to photography or the business of photography. And sometimes, yes, we do stretch it a little bit, but it works.
I'm stretching it pretty big time.
Are you stretching it big time this week? Okay. So Brian, what have you got for us this week? What's your pick?
So, productivity. How's that? If I classify this under productivity, which has to do with business because it makes you more time efficient.
Yes,
it saves you money in your business, which means you can buy more cameras, which is related to photography. So that is how this pick of the week is related.
Like 6 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon.
So this is an app that I just installed on my computer not long ago. It's called Synergy. And what it allows me to do is I've got here in my office, I've got an iMac in front of me. I have a 27-inch screen beside it attached to the iMac. So I've got 2 screens, but I have my laptop that I kind of use as a floater. I go back and forth at home with it, that kind of thing. And it always kind of sits beside my desk, but I've never really been able to use it because obviously it's a separate computer. So it's just kind of weird to like have my keyboard and mouse for my iMac and then like switch over to my laptop and all that stuff. So Synergy, actually you install it on the main computer, you make it like a server, and then you install it on a secondary computer, and it basically makes it so that you can share your mouse and your keyboard between all 3 of them. So now it actually turns my laptop to the right of my iMac basically into another monitor. So I can just be working on my main screen, move the mouse over to the right, and it just seamlessly goes now onto my laptop, and I can just keep using the laptop as if I was on the keyboard and stuff, but I don't have to move my mouse and keyboard and stuff around. So that's my like highly techie, nerdy pick of the week that just makes me so happy because now I have another monitor to work with.
Very cool. Can I add a piggyback companion pick to that?
Do it up.
So I have a similar app that you can do the same thing with your iPad. It's called Duet.
I can have 4 monitors now?
4 screens. You can install, yes. So it basically allows you to use your iPad. So if you have an iPad and you have your Mac, you install Duet on the 2 devices, and then you can use your iPad as a secondary screen. So you could have Netflix up on your or whatever. You know, you could have your email.
Wait a minute. Now it's not productivity though, Bruce. Now try to make that connection to photography.
What if you're watching a photography documentary?
Okay, touche.
Or how-to video.
There we go.
Yeah, so that's a piggyback companion pick. That's not my pick, but that's a
You could be watching TWiP educational videos.
Yes,
there we go. Yes.
Excellent.
Hey, should we quickly play? I know a lot of our listeners, I think like 99% of them, you guys are listening to the podcast, like the audio podcast, right? Through the podcast store or through iTunes or Stitcher or however you're listening to us. But just like a reminder, right, to our listener, this is like a YouTube show as well, right? So if you go to the show notes for the episode, you can actually watch us. So if you want to like see what we're doing and actually like keep us there a full screen beside you as you edit, because like what could be more exciting possibly than watching us talk? Then you can do that too.
You could watch us on your 50 screens with those new apps that you just learned.
Yeah. You can make like Robert on one screen and then Bruce on the other and then me on the other. Like it could just be like you're hanging out with us in the room having a drink together.
Nice. Yeah. Like we're at a pub in Ireland.
Yeah. I just wanted to remind our listeners, because sometimes, you know, if you're at your computer, you can watch it too if you want to see what we look like too.
I know we have one set of listeners, iDynamics. It's a video company in Indiana who I'm friends with, and I know they watch us.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Well, hello to India.
Hello.
Indiana, not India, Indiana.
Oh, Indiana. Okay.
It's kind of the same thing, but.
Oh, we've just offended everybody in Indiana.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Evans, what do you have for us? You have an interesting app.
So mine is something that I actually used while I was abroad, that I was actually told by my friends in Ireland, Michael and Eddie. It's an app called maps.me, and there are many, you know, obviously navigation and maps apps, but the great thing about this one is that it doesn't use your data. I guess it connects once you need data to download it, but being that we were driving around all over Ireland, it would give me directions in the car, and it wasn't using up my data and costing me thousands of dollars. So you have to download the maps to where you are when you go there, but like I just updated it before the show started because I was looking at it for my pick, and it wanted me to download my local region map, so it did.
Yeah, that's great. Even if you're, like here in Canada, we have like our data is fairly expensive. So, there's times and they're starting to charge if you go over your data. So we're one of the more expensive countries in the world as far as data access. So yeah, that'd be a great app, even if you want to save on your data plans if you don't have a lot of data. So
yeah,
very cool. And it's called Apps.
Maps.me.
Maps.me. Very cool. Well, we'll put a link to that in the show notes for sure. Well, my pick of the week, again, we're recording this in September. This show will go out sometime in November. So by the time this show airs, it's going to be a little bit of an old pick. But my pick this week is, I'm holding it up in front of the camera for those that are watching the video, is I have in my little hands the brand new Canon 5D Mark IV. So we were looking to replace one of our bodies at the studio, and the 5D Mark IV came along, and so I decided to make the leap and jump onto the 5D Mark IV, and I've shot one event and one wedding with it so far. And so far, I've been impressed. The image quality is exceptional. It definitely focuses a little bit faster and seems to perform a little bit better in low light situations, which is where we find ourselves as wedding photographers often. So really liking that. I haven't had a chance really to play with any of the video features. It's got, you know, some cool video. It shoots 4K, and it's got a nice touch screen, so you can do, you know, focusing in the back of it. So I haven't had a chance to play with any of that. It finally has Wi-Fi built into it, so now I can do some of the cool things that the Sony guys have been able to do for years, is, you know, like send photos from my camera to my phone and share them out. So I haven't had a chance to get on that yet, but hopefully soon. So that's my pick of the week, is the Canon 5D Mark IV. Now I'm just waiting for Adobe to update their RAW so that I can start processing my images in Lightroom instead of having to use Canon's, shall we say, less than stellar software application. So that is my pick of the week. Well, that brings us sadly to the end of another episode of TWiP Weddings. Brian did have to duck out, so it's just you and I left, Robert. But of course, we want to thank our sponsors for their support, and we want to remind our audience to send in your questions for the show and share your thoughts by commenting on the blog post for this episode. So before we bid adieu, what have you got coming up, Robert, and where can people go to find you?
Well, busy next few months, so by the time you guys listen to this, I will be done. But I'm off to Arizona to shoot Google Zeitgeist, and then off to Utah to shoot something, and then flying to San Francisco to shoot a family portrait, and 2 New York weddings in October.
Very exciting. Good stuff.
And again, if you're looking for me, easy to find me. It's just my name everywhere, more or less. RobertEvans.com is my website. @RobertEvans is my Instagram and Twitter names. And my Facebook would be Robert Evans Studios.
Very good, very good. And if you were looking for Brian, of course, he's the genius behind Sprout Studio, so you can go check that out at getsproutstudio.com, or you can also follow Brian along most of the social networks. He's BCAP Photo, so BCAPPHOTO, so BCAP Photo. Again, we'll put links in there. I'm going to be leading a workshop for Darlene Hildebrandt. So those who listen to TWiP may have heard of Darlene. So she runs photography tours. And last year I went alongside her workshop in Drumheller, Alberta. And this year, because she's going to be in, I think she's going to be in Morocco, she's asked me to lead that workshop for her. So I'm actually going to be leading a workshop in Drumheller, Alberta. It's not till April, so we've got some time. But we'll put a link in the show notes if you're interested in coming up to southern Alberta, the Badlands, where the dinosaurs used to roam. It's sort of a little bit like the Grand Canyon. It's very unique territory. So you go from flat prairie to all of a sudden you're kind of like in the Grand Canyon. It's a very cool part. So we're going to go there and do some photography. We go to a coal mine. We go to a ghost town at night and do some shooting. So I'm doing that in April. So if you're interested in coming up to the Badlands of Alberta, you can join me for a workshop in Drumheller.
So you'll be working in a coal mine?
I'll be working in a coal mine. Yeah, it's really cool.
Are you going downtown?
Going downtown, working in a coal mine. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a good tour. Usually, it's about 8 to 12 people come along. It's a long couple of days because we get up really early to get sunrise, and then we shoot. We do some night photography, and we do some things with light painting. It's a lot of fun. So I will put a link to that, and you can sign up if you're interested in joining me. But if you're looking for me otherwise, you can find me over on my website, which is momentsindigital.com. Or if you're looking for me on most of the social networks, you'll find me. I'm at Bruce Clark with an E at the end of Clark on most of the usual social networks. And of course, be sure to visit our website at thisweekinphoto.com for this show and all the other great shows that are part of the TWiP network. And thank you again for listening to TWiP Weddings, raising the bar one wedding at a time.